Hi everyone, Larry Satchwell here. When the girls were young, I made them a twin bed. The youngest two, I made a whole bed. Nikki was the first, and I only made her and Dana headboards. And I don't remember exactly what Nikki's looks like. She's had that one at her house for several years. Dana's is still upstairs. It has a heart carved into it. And Bree and Alyssa's have a heart carved into it. For whatever reason, I didn't make a twin bed for Laura. I made a full-size bed for her, and it's upstairs in our guest bedroom. But anyway, you may have seen the Ryobi review here I did. What the plan is, Bree has a son, and she didn't want this heart on the bed. I don't blame her for that. It's not real masculine. But I've already taken this off in the review for the Ryobi. I'll be gluing this on the back of the Bree's headboard, the two hearts that I carved out, just as a reminder for Bree and to let Jacob know what it looked like at one time. But the plan is to take this piece off. It should come off pretty easily, I think, with this blade. I may use a couple more blades, but I'm hoping to get by with as least amount of sanding as I can. Then once this is off, I'll duplicate it. I think I'll have to make it a little bit wider to accommodate where the heart was, but the plan is to put it right back on. Ask Sherwin-Williams to match up some stain for me, and then go from there. So we'll get started. I've got it about as far as I can go. This is a 1.5 inch blade, and that's about as long as I can find. And this is a 2-inch piece of wood. So I think the rest of it's going to have to be slow going. I've got a flush cutting pull blade here, and I think we're going to have to finish the rest of it with it. So it's going to be pretty slow going. Back at it. I learned a lot from taking this piece off. First thing this morning, I took it over to Sherwin-Williams. They're really good at matching. It's going to be 2 or 3 days. They're overwhelmed right now. They're running a sale. But they've been really good to me in the past, being able to match. I'd really rather not strip all of this bed, but I may end up doing that. So they have the top piece and a piece of pine that I'll be using to replace it with. So having learned from that, I also stopped by Lowe's this morning. Got checked out by my favorite guy, Justin. Really nice guy, always smiling. You know, there's a guy over there a few months ago that he was there for a couple of years. I couldn't get that guy to smile for nothing. Anyway, these blades are so expensive. I've got 3 of them for $31, so $10 a piece basically. This one is 1.75 inches. The ones I was dealing with yesterday were 1.25 inches, but this is still not going to reach all the way across this. So I'm going to attack this side, this headboard, from the top instead of the bottom as much as possible. Looking at this bed, I really did a terrible job of finishing. I am not a good wood finisher, but I can sand off the top and rough it up and put some more shellac on it and get some of these drips out of here. This is still attached here. So I've got my router set up here. I don't really like this blade, and I might change it out, but it's 3/4 inch wide here. I've got this on here to help me keep it level. I'm going to put on my protection, and I'm not going to try to take this whole thing off with this, but I'm going to try to get a good 1/2 inch or so on the top here. It'll be tricky down here. Try to get 1/2 inch or so where I can start using the multi-tool and get the rest of it off. Because of the way the grain's running here, I've got to take climbing cuts, which the router wants to take off with it. I think if I used my bigger router, I wouldn't be able to control it as well as this little one. And there's the other heart. So I'm going to glue these to the back. Boy, it's a lot of dust. I've got it all cut off, all sanded down to where I think the bare wood is. So now the next thing to do is to make a surround over here at top to cover up this ugliness. And that's where we're at. So I've got a 1x12 pine here, and I've got it lined up, cut exactly to the size. So now I simply outline this top. And then I'll take it over to the bandsaw, saw clean of the line, and clean it up with a router bit. It'll take several days to get replacement tires for my bandsaw, so in the meantime I need to keep moving forward. I'm going to use my jigsaw. That took forever. I've got my router set up with this 1/4-inch spiral bit, patterning bit I think it's called. It's got a bearing down here, so it will ride on the lower side and then cut the upper side. I've got the headboard clamped on here, some protection on. I have this tool, I think it came from Karen's uncle, and I bought it in the 70s, or maybe it didn't come from there. But anyway, I've got it 3 inches wide here, and I've carefully scribed a line across the top here, and then I marked it in with a pencil. Now I won't have a pattern to go to that, so I will cut it shy of the line and then use my sander to sand it up to the line. While it's still square here, I think I will trim off this edge on the table saw, and that way it'll be a lot more accurate, because it's really hard to sand the square thing there. So that's the next step. Before I called it a day yesterday, I went ahead and glued up these two pieces. This will be the equivalent to this, finish sanding this on the headboard. So now I'll do the same thing with my 1/4-inch bit. I knew I couldn't get down into this corner, so I've already sanded it down to the line. And now I can trim this to the exact size. Been busy the last few days, so let me do a catch-up video right here. I've engraved this using just my router. I didn't take time to hand carve it. Over here it says made for Brianne, love daddy, 94. That's 1994. And it had these two hearts, one on the headboard, one on the footboard. So I glued those to the back here. And then it says remade for Jacob, love big daddy, 2020. All right, not 2022, but just 22. So after that, I have the new piece for the footboard, new piece for the headboard. I used a Roman OG bit on the inside, and I used a roundover bit on the outside. I've sanded it down to 120. That's the stain that Sherwin-Williams matched for me. So the next step I also sanded the back and the legs here with 320 to take off the smoothness from the old finish. So now I'm ready to get this on here. It has a nice fit. What I want to do is outline where it goes here. I need to take this part of the finish off or the glue will not stick. So that's the next part, a lot of sanding. I'll do the same exact thing on the footboard. Here's the next step in the process. This is pre-stain conditioner. On cans like this and on the stain, they are really full. I like to punch 3 or 4 holes in this top rim so that the stain runs back in. It's not going to affect the sealing quality of the lid. So if you're working with soft woods like this, this really helps, especially since I've got this end grain exposed here. This is going to want to take the stain a lot darker, and it's going to look like you stained it instead of being a real piece of hardwood or something like that. So this will help even out the stain. You leave it on here for 5 to 15 minutes, and then you wipe off any excess, and then you put your finish on no more than 2 hours later. So that's going to work out really well for me. I'm going to put this on. By the time I'm finished with this one, it'll be time to wipe off. By the time I'm finished with this one, it'll be time to wipe this one off with just a clean cotton rag. I like to use cotton socks that have holes in them. That's why I keep those around here. I want to make sure I get it really soaked in on this end grain. It's going to take a lot. It'll soak in there pretty quickly. Get good coverage on it. Stir it up in between. The Sherwin-Williams man was kind enough to shake it for me, but that was a day ago. But I really like the match. I think it's a good match. Anywhere you see it soaking in really fast, I think I just like to apply an extra little dab there. And once I used the router on this, I did sand it down to 120. Well, I just got back here from the garden, been out there about a half an hour. This looks like it's thoroughly dried. So it's time to apply some stain. How do I want to do this? I think I want to move this one over here. I'm using a brush. In the past, I've used steel wool, rags, but to get down into this OG, I think a brush works best. Carefully working with the grain here. Just gonna wipe off the excess. As often happens, I got into a time crunch. Bree, Michael, and Jacob were visiting very shortly. I thought I had videotaped gluing it on, but I didn't, and it's no big deal. I just glued the pieces that I made back onto the bed, and here it is at home. And I hope Bree and Michael and Jacob enjoy it for many years to come. Thanks for watching.